Infidelity. Why do men cheat?
Big question. Age-old question, really.
It is. And gotta say, your notes from this Unpacking Infidelity podcast outline really got me thinking. We're diving deep today.
Yeah, definitely a sensitive topic for a lot of people. Not about judgment here, though.
Exactly. More about understanding. So maybe let's start with, what even is cheating? The outline kind of separates it, right? Physical and emotional. But is it always that clear-cut?
Well, you're right. The lines can get blurry. The outline says it depends on the couple, their agreements. What one person sees as totally crossing the line, another might not.
Like late-night texting and acts. Is that harmless or a red flag? What do you think?
It all boils down to those boundaries within the relationship, you know? What feels like betrayal to one person might be totally fine for another.
Makes sense. So just how common is this? The outline mentions any stats on that?
It does, yeah, some pretty eye-opening numbers, actually. But, just focusing on the stats, it kind of misses the point. Infidelity, it's deeply personal, right? Each experience is going to be different.
Absolutely. So let's get into those reasons then. Why do men cheat? This outline lists a bunch, some I hadn't even considered, honestly. Starting with the classic desire for variety, like the grass is greener kind of thing.
Right, that whole seeking novelty thing. And there's actually a whole psychological angle to this. Humans, we're wired to seek out novelty. It's how we survived way back when, exploring new territory and all that. But now, in the context of relationships, it can, manifest in a not-so-great way.
I never thought about it that way, evolutionarily. But it kind of makes sense now that you mention it. So how do couples, fight that urge for something new?
That's where keeping things exciting within the relationship comes in. Finding ways to shake up routines, trying new things together. You know, that spark everyone talks about.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So next on the outlines list is emotional disconnect. The idea that cheating sometimes isn't even about the physical act, but finding that emotional connection that's missing at home.
Exactly. We all need connection, intimacy, right? It's basic human stuff. And when those needs aren't met in your main relationship, well, some people look elsewhere.
This makes me think of those relationship check-in articles you see everywhere. Taking time to really talk, connect on that deeper level. Easy to forget in day-to-day life, you know?
It really is. Just basic communication, listening to each other, showing you care, that goes a long way.
For sure. Okay, the outline also talks about low commitment. Makes you wonder, how secure do both partners feel in the relationship? Are they even on the same page about the future?
Yeah, it's about having those conversations about expectations, how you define commitment. Words matter, but actions even more so, right?
Yeah.
Consistency, reliability, actually prioritizing the relationship.
Yeah, actions over words for sure. Okay, this next one's kind of tough. Opportunity. Temptation. Life happens, you know? An attractive coworker, a random encounter.
Absolutely. It's bound to happen, these situations where the opportunity is there. But important to remember, even with all that external stuff, it still comes down to the individual, to making a choice.
So true. We all have choices. Which kind of leads into the next point on the list, seeking validation, that self-esteem boost. It's sad to think someone would seek that outside the relationship because they feel insecure.
It is, and it often reflects deeper issues, that need for external validation, building self-love, confidence, separate from the relationship, that's key, knowing your worth from the inside out.
Love that. Okay, the outline also mentions how, cultural norms play a role. Our views on infidelity, they're not all created equal, right?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Some cultures are more, shall we say, tolerant. Others, it's a huge deal. Makes you think, what societal messages have we internalized, without even realizing it?
Totally. And speaking of assumptions, the outline gets into sexual drive differences. Sensitive topic, but gotta be addressed.
Absolutely. When those desires are mismatched, it can cause a lot of tension in a relationship. Being open about it is crucial. Talking about your needs, finding ways to, find satisfaction together.
Communication. Sensing a theme here. Okay, this next one really surprised me. The idea that some people cheat out of fear of intimacy. Sounds kind of backwards, but I don't know. Makes a weird kind of sense.
It does, right? Sometimes it's past trauma, bad relationship examples, or even just being scared of vulnerability. They might sabotage things, create distance, because real connection is scary.
Deep stuff.
Yeah.
Shows how much our past can affect us, which I guess ties into the next point, past patterns. The outline says if someone's been cheated on before, or even seen it growing up, they might be more likely to repeat that.
It's a cycle. Hard to break, for sure, but not impossible. It takes being aware of it, working through those underlying reasons. Often therapy can help too.
So if we're looking for a common thread in all this, communication, right? If you can't talk openly with your partner about needs, fears, desires, that's a problem.
Couldn't agree more. That open, honest, kind communication, it's the foundation of any good relationship. Feeling safe to express yourself, be heard and understood.
The outline doesn't really have personal stories, obviously, but it did make me wonder, how powerful would it be to hear from people who've actually lived through this? Maybe something for a future deep dive.
I think so, yeah. Real stories, they give you that perspective, empathy, no matter what role someone played in the situation.
100%. So, with all this said, what can be done about infidelity? The outline does give some advice, thankfully. It mentions actively working to strengthen the relationship, better communication, those check-ins we talked about, building trust.
Takes effort, for sure. But the payoff is huge. And even when infidelity has happened, healing's still possible. Therapy can be really helpful. Being open, willing to rebuild, it can be done.
We covered so much ground today, from defining cheating to the psychology behind it, even ways to prevent it, heal from it.
We did. And as we wrap up, something to think about. After all this, what one step can you take right now to build that trust and connection in your own life? A talk with your partner, scheduling time for each other, even just thinking about your needs, how they're being met.
Great question. And like always, we want to hear from you. What stuck with you today? What are you still wondering about? Keep the conversation going.